Hi, this is Chad Dull. I'm the Vice President of Academic Affairs at Minnesota State College Southeast in Winona and Red Wing, Minnesota. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about what I've learned in my research on cultural competence and emotional intelligence. I used an assessment from Georgetown University to assess my cultural competence. I was not surprised to learn that I have gaps in this area. I represent a number of groups that are pretty privileged. I am a straight, white, cisgender male, which means my ability to see across cultures because of my limited experience is an area that I need to be working on really all of the time. It was interesting to look that while I felt like I'd used some proximity to intercultural experiences to grow myself, I really don't have a lot of tools in my toolbox to assess my organization for cultural competence. That would be an interesting challenge down the road, on perhaps a goal that I could have some tools identified that I could use to help my organization grow in cultural competence. So I appreciated the opportunity to look at that. In looking a little further at emotional intelligence and Goleman's 4 facets that influence that, it was interesting to see my own leadership growth across them. I've been in administration for about 20 years, and I am certainly a much different leader at age 49 than I was 20 years ago when I started. I was thinking in terms of, just looking to my notes, that notion of self-awareness. That's been an ongoing process to understand kind of my own style, my own areas of expertise, my own areas of weakness. As mentioned earlier, that notion that if I don't work hard to find cultural competence, it can be hidden from me because I don't necessarily need it to succeed in the environment that I'm in, although I do need it to succeed at the level that I want. So I spend a lot of time working on self-awareness. And as I get older, the change that I find is that my awareness of my weaknesses or of my areas of less strength actually increase my self-assurance, that I'm pretty comfortable with what I know and what I don't know and what I can get done with those tools. The next notion that Goleman talks about is this idea of self-management. Again, that's been an area I've watched myself grow in as years have gone by. I think as a young leader, I was much more prone to be influenced by emotional occurrences, that I struggled with that idea of things were more personal than perhaps they were. And that was always going to be difficult. As I've gotten older, I've managed to be a little more mission focused and able, because of that, to maybe weather others' ups and downs. It is a struggle as I've grown in responsibility and in organizational position that I think maintaining my own calm becomes more important all of the time. Particularly in this last 6 weeks, as we've been in the crisis of this pandemic, I've really had to work to maintain a sense of calm and focus to help my staff deal with the same thing. The next topic Goleman talks about is this notion of social awareness. I have strengths and weaknesses in that area. I am someone who's pretty tuned into what's going on among people, but I don't know that I always respond to it as well as I should. I have a pretty good sense of organizational dynamics and how individual perceptions might change those, but I don't know that I'm always tuned in to people on that individual level. It actually ties into Goleman's 4th area of relationship management. I can be a pretty inspirational leader, and I communicate well in writing, I communicate well to large groups, but I can be a little neglectful of those one-on-one relationships. And so I've worked very hard and continue to do so to grow myself in that area, and I need to make intentional choices to make that happen. Otherwise, it is an area I neglect, particularly in times of crisis. I hope that kind of my social awareness and my investment in people before fills that bucket a little bit for when I make errors there. But I find on the emotional intelligence measures that really, for me, it's about balance. That it relates back to that notion of at mid-career or late mid-career for me, that I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses, and I use both to cope and compensate and try to be the most effective leader that I can.